What if I told you that one of the greatest mysteries on Earth is not hidden inside the pyramids of Egypt, not buried beneath the lost city of Atlantis, and not somewhere inside the strange legends of the Bermuda Triangle, but on a tiny island, isolated, forgotten, in the middle of the endless Pacific Ocean, where hundreds of giant stone faces stand silently, watching, waiting, for centuries. They do not speak. They do not move. Yet somehow, they feel alive. These giant statues are known as Moai, and they stand on Easter Island, a remote island so isolated that even today, it still feels disconnected from the rest of the world. But the mystery isn't simply about the statues themselves. It isn't just about who carved them or why they were built. The biggest mystery is something that sounds deceptively simple. How did ancient people move them? How do you transport a stone giant weighing dozens of tons without cranes, without trucks, without modern engineering, without machines? Because some of these statues weigh more than elephants. Some stand over 30 feet tall, and many had to travel miles across rough terrain, across volcanic rock, across hills, across uneven ground. Even modern vehicles would struggle. Yet somehow, centuries ago, people managed to do it. And perhaps the strangest part of all, the local people already had an answer. They said, the statues walked. Tonight, we're diving deep into one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. The mystery of Easter Island. The mystery of the walking giants. Turn off the lights, turn up the volume, and let's begin. Before we can understand how the statues moved, we first need to understand where they came from. Because Easter Island is unlike almost anywhere else on Earth. Take a map of the Pacific Ocean. Look far west of South America, far beyond ordinary shipping routes, far from major civilizations, and you'll find a tiny dot, almost invisible. That's Easter Island. The island lies thousands of kilometers from mainland Chile. Imagine living there hundreds of years ago. No nearby nations, no neighboring islands close enough to help, no large trade routes, nothing but ocean. Day after day, year after year, endless blue in every direction. To many explorers, the island felt almost unreal, like the edge of the world. And perhaps that isolation is exactly what made its mystery even more powerful. Because somehow, people found this place. Long before modern navigation, long before satellites, long before maps. Historians believe the first settlers arrived around the year 1200, ancient Polynesian navigators. And their achievements alone sound almost impossible. No GPS, no compass, no engines. Yet they crossed thousands of miles of ocean, using stars, wind, cloud formations, ocean currents, bird patterns, even wave movements. They navigated the sea with knowledge so advanced, it almost feels supernatural. And eventually, they arrived here, on this tiny island in the middle of nowhere. They built homes, created villages, raised families, built a civilization. And then, they began creating something extraordinary, something the world would later struggle to explain. The Moai. Maybe it began with one statue, then another, then several more, then dozens, then hundreds, until eventually, the entire island transformed into something extraordinary. Because Moai were not decorations. They were not monuments built simply for beauty. For the people of Rapa Nui, these statues represented ancestors, powerful leaders, chiefs, spiritual figures, guardians of their people. The people believed their ancestors continued watching over future generations, protecting villages, protecting families, protecting the island itself. And so the statues stood facing inland, not toward the ocean, not watching outsiders, watching their own people, watching the communities they were meant to protect. At least, that was the belief. But then came a problem, a massive problem, because the statues weren't built where they stand today. Most Moai were carved at a volcanic quarry called Rano Raraku. This place was essentially a giant statue factory. Workers carved Moai directly into volcanic rock. And even today, unfinished statues still remain there, frozen in time. Some partially carved, some still attached to the mountainside, as if workers suddenly disappeared, as if something interrupted the process forever. But the strangest part wasn't carving them, it was moving them. Because after completion, these enormous stone giants somehow traveled across the island, miles away, over hills, across rocky terrain, across dangerous landscapes. Now, pause for a second. Imagine someone walking up to you and saying, "We need to move an 80-ton stone giant." Without trucks, without machinery, without wheels. What would you do? Because that question confused scientists for decades, maybe centuries. And for a long time, people thought they had the answer. The first major theory sounded simple. Use trees. Cut down massive trunks. Place the statue on wooden rollers, then pull, roll, pull again. Simple. Logical. Many ancient civilizations moved heavy objects this way. On paper, it made perfect sense. Until researchers noticed a problem. A huge problem. When Europeans arrived on Easter Island, large forests were mostly gone, nearly vanished. Yet moving hundreds of Moai with logs would have required enormous numbers of trees. Thousands, maybe more. Suddenly, a disturbing theory appeared. What if the people destroyed their own environment? What if their obsession with building statues caused ecological collapse? What if Moai ultimately destroyed the civilization that created them? For years, this idea became extremely popular. Books repeated it, documentaries repeated it, experts repeated it. A tragic warning story. Human ambition destroys nature. Nature collapses. Civilization collapses. The end. But then, scientists discovered something unexpected. Rats. Yes, rats. Polynesian settlers accidentally brought rats to the island, and rats multiplied rapidly. Very rapidly. Researchers found evidence suggesting rats ate enormous amounts of tree seeds, preventing forests from recovering. Suddenly, everything became more complicated. Perhaps humans weren't solely responsible. Perhaps the story wasn't simple at all. And once again, the mystery grew deeper. But then came a theory so strange, so bizarre, that many people laughed when they first heard it. The statues walked. Not magically, not literally alive. Walked. At first, scientists dismissed the idea entirely because it sounded ridiculous, like folklore, like myth, like fantasy. But local legends had said this for generations. The people claimed priests used a mysterious spiritual force called mana. And through mana, the statues walked to their destinations. Researchers initially dismissed the stories, until someone asked a strange question. What if the legends weren't entirely wrong? Not magic, not supernatural power, but a hidden clue. Then came an experiment. Researchers built a replica moai, attached ropes on both sides, and one behind. Then teams began pulling. Left, right, left, right. Slowly, the statue rocked, then shifted, then moved forward. Again, left, right, left, right. And suddenly, something astonishing happened. From a distance, the statue appeared to walk. Not slide, not roll, walk. And for the first time, the old legends no longer sounded impossible. Maybe the ancestors of Rapa Nui weren't inventing myths. Maybe they were simply describing what they saw. And perhaps we misunderstood them for hundreds of years. But even then, many questions remained unanswered. Because across Easter Island, some moai still lie abandoned along ancient roads, as if they collapsed mid-journey, as if something went wrong. Why? Did ropes snap? Did workers lose control? Did accidents happen? Or did something much larger occur? Because every answer seemed to create new mysteries. And maybe that's why Easter Island still fascinates people today. Because perhaps the greatest mystery isn't the statues. It's the people, the intelligence, the cooperation, the forgotten engineering, the remarkable abilities of ancient humans, abilities we often underestimate. And maybe, as darkness falls over Easter Island, as ocean winds whisper across the cliffs, and moonlight stretches giant shadows over silent stone faces, those ancient watchers are still keeping their secret, waiting, watching, for someone to finally uncover the truth.